Okay, we're back. Um, who knows what that was? My internet is fine. Just OBS dropped. That's a new one. Usually it's that my connection is dropping. It's been fine for the last couple of months though, but yeah. Who knows what's up with that? But yeah, we're not going to be doing the happy birthday stuff today. I've got other royalty-free music. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna give people a sec just to get resettled because OBS is being a pain in the ass. Okay, yeah. So I set up a Google form, which I think is better than NGL because NGL just doesn't. There's not a lot of space for context, so we were getting a lot of questions that were just like one sentence, and it was kind of hard to approach them because I don't know you. So I think this is gonna be better. But just to start, E6N underscore is craving a hilarious best of the worst style American as fuck 80s action movies. Red Heat, that's a possibility. What's the movie about jeans? What's the Jean movie? Jean Cop? Jeans Cop movie. It was called Blue Jean Cop, I think, in Europe, but here it was called something else. It's called Shakedown. Shakedown is a really good 80s cop action movie. It's got Peter Weller and Sam Elliott, and in Europe it's called Blue Jean Cop, which is an incredible movie. It's also written and directed by a guy who basically did like 3 things and then just stopped and started doing car racing instead. James Glickenhaus. So yeah, I'll always go to bat for Shakedown. I'm a big Peter Weller fan. How could you not like Peter Weller's work? I think, but never played that RoboCop game. I've heard pretty good things, but let's jump in. Pull up the Google Doc. Okay. All right, here we go. Hey, I'm currently, sorry, I'm not going to show these because they're not on my phone. Hey, I'm currently stuck in a career I barely tolerate most days. It's kind of mindless and it's something I want to do, but the pay is decent. I moved back home during COVID, but I'm afraid to seek out more independence because I don't feel established in a career that I want to be in. I'm almost done paying off student loans from undergrad, but may want to go back for master's/law school. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what to do. Does that seem like a good plan? I want to do something that's more interesting and at least pays decently. Otherwise, I feel stuck with where I am at life, where I'm at in life, leaving my mid-20s. P.S. I am very fortunate. My parents are doing well and they love me. Thanks, Mom and Dad. All right. Okay. Right off the bat, don't go to grad school unless one of 2 things. Go to grad school if it's fully funded and you think it's something you might want to do without the expectation that it will necessarily help you get a job. If it's in like a humanities or social sciences field. Or go to grad school if it's something that will lead to a profession that you will be able to pay off your debt, because it is not, if you're almost done paying off your student loans from undergrad and then you go and add another, God, who even knows how much at this point, from a 2 to 4 year master's degree in, I don't know, anthropology, psychology, something like, I don't think that's a good idea. To me, as someone who did that, I always caution people about grad school, and basically I went because I had funding. And this was in Well, it was a while ago, and they were already slashing funding because it was right after the financial crisis. So I think I was in the last cohort that was, there was maybe one or two cohorts after me that were fully funded. But yeah, like, you know, if you have a funding at grad school where you get a stipend and you get a tuition waiver for teaching or doing research, then sure, fuck around for a few years doing that. Like, you know, it could lead to something interesting. If not, the thing is, like, the value of an MA has dropped so much in the last 15 years. It used to be that if you got an MA, you could basically do adjunct work at more or less any school. But the fact that there has been such like an arms race of degrees where more people were going to college, that meant that more people were getting master's degrees. So now for a lot of schools, just to like teach anything, you need a PhD. And getting a PhD is like a pretty big commitment. So unless you absolutely love the subject and you see yourself going into academia, I don't think it's worth it. I think law school, I mean, that's kind of different, right? Because again, that is maybe a field where you could pay off that debt. But then again, what kind of law would you want to do, right? Like, if you're doing corporate law, you're going to be making more money, but you're also probably going to, I mean, depending on your values, maybe you may not care about the kinds of stuff, the kinds of work that you're doing. But if you do, and you're like, oh, I want to do some kind of like environmental law or some kind of law that is broadly of more social value, it's like most things, right? You're not going to be getting paid as much. And okay, law school average wage is very high, but median pretty low. Yeah, there are easier ways to make money. Yeah, so I guess I would say, like, these are all fine things to do if you're not going to be footed with tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for doing them. Not that having debt is like the worst thing in the world, but personally, it makes me really antsy. I don't like it. I don't like having debt. And there are other people who will tell you like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, just, and if you don't want to own a house or buy a car or anything, it may not matter as much. But yeah, and anything you learned in grad school for a social sciences degree or humanities or even hard sciences, you can learn on your own. It's just a matter of like, will you make more connections at grad school? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a big grad school person. For me, it was useful because I was leaving college and had no idea what I was doing. And I had funding. So it was a good few years where I could figure some stuff out. I was in a terminal PhD program, which means that you get a master's degree and then you continue on to get a PhD. I dropped out after I got the master's degree because I realized that I didn't like what I was doing. But I didn't get any debt. I got to live in another city for a few years. I don't regret it. I think the funding thing is a big thing. So I don't know. You say you have like a kind of mindless job that pays decently. It's not something you want to do. The move might be figure out what you do want to do, and figure out whether that is something that you can do to support yourself or whether you are okay having the mindless job and then doing that when you're not working. I think there's like room to play around, like to try stuff out before you commit to like to a grad school or to law school or something. I would say, yeah, I mean, it's nice that you have the stability of the job and, you know, start reading some stuff about different things you might want to do, start watching some videos and, figure it out. I think it's also normal to feel stuck in your mid-20s. I think it's kind of, the secret is it's kind of normal to feel stuck all the time. I think for most people, life is an experience of feeling stuck most of the time, with brief periods of feeling loosened and free. And to some extent, you just have to kind of sit with that, I think. Yeah, anyone else? Anyone in chat, like, dealing with this kind of thing right now? Just trying to figure out, like, what you're, like, if you have a job that you're not crazy about, but it's paying the bills, that can be a situation where you're like, I don't want to leave this because it's secure, but it's mind-numbing. And yeah, I think there is the one argument that, like, most people just aren't going to enjoy their jobs because the way that labor is set up in this country, a lot of jobs are bullshit. Like, they don't actually contribute to anything. And I don't just mean, like, I don't mean that in, like, a leftist sense. I just mean that, like, to literally anything. Like, they're just kind of moving numbers around, or just kind of, like, standing at the door of a Walmart, or just, like, all these things that, like, don't actually add value. But we have this expectation that people are going to work to earn their right to exist. So the one school of thought is, if you have something that pays okay and that you can bear, then hold on to it. But if you can't bear it, then you have to figure something else out. I mean, I'm, like, on record as being a day job hater. And not that I'm a hater, I'm just, like, very bad at them. Like, I really haven't had many day jobs, in terms of, like, office jobs or, like, jobs where you go somewhere from 9 to 5. Because even at my full-time job at Fanbyte, I was working from home and everyone was remote. So, and before that, you know, I have kind of just always done a bunch of different things, and I've never made much money from doing those. Like, that full-time job was, so far in my life, like, the time that I made the most money. But you find ways of getting by, and it's trade-offs. Yeah, I'll tell John how much it sucked working for him. Working for John was great. Working for Fanbyte was great. And but even at Fanbyte, I was getting to a place, and John knows this, and I think everyone I worked with knows this, but with Fanbyte, I was getting to a place where I was feeling like I don't really want to be writing about other people's work. I don't want to be writing about games that other people are making or movies that other people are shooting. I want to be making my own stuff. And then obviously when the site got, like, you know, shut down more or less, and I was just writing Destiny guides, that was not fulfilling at all. And that's the main reason why I left. So I get it. I mean, you know, then that was mindless. The Destiny guides, that was mindless. I could just, like, I knew that game, like, inside and out by the time I quit that job or / got laid off. So I could just, you know, spin up a template, write a God roll guide, or write a guide for, like, a new, you know, a new seasonal event or whatever. And I didn't have to think about it. And it was kind of writing, which I like, but it was also, like, close enough to what I wanted to be doing that it was kind of sucking that energy, if that makes sense. Like, I think there is something to be said for a day job that has nothing to do with what you're actually into doing, because then you have this very clean divide. Whereas if you want to write and your job is writing SEO bullshit copy, then yeah, it's a different kind of writing, but it's still, like, kind of sapping that that energy. And also, by giving you this external motivation for doing the one kind of writing where you're getting paid for it, it makes it less likely that you're going to do it when you're not getting paid for it. Yeah, Skull Mandible. I've had creatively fulfilling jobs I loved and somewhat tedious office jobs, and the only major difference is I expected the creative jobs to save me when they mostly just left me too creatively drained to make my own shit. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for the boring office job or the tedious manual labor job or whatever that doesn't have anything to do with what you like or what your hobby is or what your pursuits are. Kind of comes down to preference, I think. But I will say, I mean, like, you know, not having that job, I do miss the money. I do miss the money. But also, money has a funny way of, like, in my experience, I have a way of, like, shifting my life to the amount of money I'm making. And really all that changes is I save a little more when I'm making more, or I'm, like, more likely to, like I'll take more lifts places if I'm making more money, or I'll, you know, buy, like, I'll go out for dinner more or something. And when I'm not making as much, I'm basically just not doing those things. My boss at Lockheed Martin really encourages me to take time off to unwind with creative pursuits. Yeah, I mean, especially if it's yelling at people on Twitter, that's just really fulfilling. And you just, for employee morale, you just, like, need to have that, right? Yeah, the job situation is fucking bleak. Things are bad for everyone, and I don't know, man. Also, if you have supportive parents and you're in your mid-20s, I mean, living with them may not be an option, and even if it is an option, it may not be desirable. Save a lot of money on rent that way. Like, you could even kick them a little bit of money every month if that was something you wanted to do. But yeah, I don't know. That's another thing is, like, we've really fucked up. You know that? We really fucked up, like, in terms of, has anyone noticed this before, that we kind of fucked up the way we organize society? Like, just broadly speaking, but this whole idea of, like, the nuclear family as the unit of consumption means that people have to buy more stuff, because more people are living apart and you need to buy more things. Whereas if you have a family living in a household together, like including adult children and grandparents, you don't need to buy as much bullshit. And also there's, like, you know, grandparents are looking after grandkids, or, you know, kids are helping grandparents. Like, that worked pretty well. And now there's, you know, and the whole stigma against, like, moving back in with your parents. And I haven't really done that. I've lived very close to both of my parents, but still been paying rent. But yeah, this idea that you're a fucking loser if you move back in with your parents, or if you're living with them over 18, while at the same time making it basically impossible, not impossible, making it very difficult for people to afford rent and, you know, food and cars and everything, or any kind of transit. Those are incompatible ideas. Like, they make people insane, and cause a lot of strife. So if you know, that's another thing too, is, like, if that option is available to you, like, if living with your parents for a while you don't have a great job, or you're trying to save money or whatever, is an option, and they're down with it, I don't think for a second you should feel like you're a loser for doing that. And obviously don't be, like, you know, be an adult, right? Like, you know, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to learn to relate to your parents as an adult, and, you know, you're probably going to want to help out around the house and, you know, do the same things you would if you had other roommates. But yeah, that's bullshit, man. Like, just, I don't know. I know people who are doing that and they're in their 30s. That's the world that we live in. And that either that idea is going to have to catch up, or things are going to have to change economically. Yeah, your purpose in society at 19 is to transfer money from the Chipotle you work at to the landlord who owns your awful apartment. Yeah, the dream, right? I could even afford cheap rent, and sometimes you got to live with mom while apartment hunting. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's rough. It's rough out there. But Yeah, let's get another question. Okay. Let me see. I'm not in a position to give advice. Who is, my friend? Who is? People are listening. This is for entertainment value only. Okay. I make much less than my partner. I'm not threatened by that, but I do feel inadequate for not being able to treat her in the same way as she does for me. How do I feel more of an equal in our relationship? Yeah. Okay, that's real because even if you like, here, there's this thing, right, where even if you think of yourself as like enlightened or like progressive or whatever, you're still like living in a society that, for all of its like claims about like equality, still does kind of like, you know, there's still some things that it's like, if you are a guy who makes less than your female partner, then that's not, it's like kind of a joke, right? And so even if you're like, well, I don't believe that, like, I'm beyond that, there's still this feeling of like, oh, this doesn't feel amazing. And also, yeah, you just feel like, you know, I think in any relationship where there's like an economic imbalance, it's normal for the partner who makes less to feel like kind of self-conscious about it. And that's not even necessarily a gender thing. That's just a money thing. But I mean, the one obvious thing I think is just to like, you know, if you're pooling your finances, or if your partner is paying for things for you more often, to find other ways to like reciprocate that, right? So whether that is like cooking at home, whether that is like doing housework, just like pretty basic things like that, I think can, you know, make a pretty big difference. Yeah, like 50-50 is always going to be in flux, right? And yeah, like as I've said before, cooking is just going to be always going to be like just such a power move. Like if you can just like get good at cooking, like I feel like that alone is a huge difference, because yeah, it's nice to like take someone out for dinner. It's nice to like, you know, be like, oh, don't worry, I got this. Like, you know, you're gonna take them out for a nice dinner, like a steak or whatever. But to like cook at home for someone, that's kind of like on a different level, right? That's like you've put yourself into that, and it's sort of this really like visceral like evidence of your care for this person to make something for them to eat that is going to literally keep them alive. That kicks ass, right? I know I talk about cooking a lot, but I'm just like really into cooking. And yeah, I think that is like the single easiest thing you can do. And yeah, there's like other stuff, right? Like I said, like, you know, making sure that your place, if you live together, is decent, or just like doing like little, you know, little things. And also I'll say, like, I think it's normal to feel inadequate about that. And at the same time, having been on both sides of that equation, like, I don't think, if the relationship is good, like, I don't think people care. Like, it's, I think in the position of having more money, it's nice to be able to, you know, spend money with or on the person that you're with. And it is awkward sometimes to be in the other position of like, oh, this person is like paying for my drinks, this person is doing this. But if you're doing this other stuff, I think that maybe you can like, I don't think, probably your partner doesn't care, but if you care, then doing this other stuff is going to like assuage your conscience to some extent, you know? So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah, okay, so. Oh, yeah, no, he's nuked. We nuked him. We nuked him. We got him. Yeah, I don't even know what E equals MC horseshit means. Real low effort. Real low effort, guys. Tonight. That's fine. Rip. Rip and piss. Okay. Here's another. This is a good one. I can't shut the fuck up. I mean, I can. I just hate it. I just feel this need to insert my opinions, and I know it's annoying and it's still there. But I don't want to be like this. How do I become a person who just shuts the fuck up more often? I love listening to people, and I know it's more rewarding than me running my mouth. But after 5 minutes of hearing someone else tell a story, I can't just say, wow, cool story, and ask a question. I always gotta say, wow, cool story. That reminds me of my story, and it's goddamn annoying. But I also feel kind of unseen/unheard, even though I, as mentioned, can't shut the fuck up. I mean, I can. I just hate it. I'm not even sure what kind of advice you're going to give. I hope I didn't submit this to a stream that's going to be about 40k or funny jokes. It's just that I can't shut the fuck up. No, you're good. That would be really funny if I was just taking 40k questions. This is a only Warhammer advice stream. But yeah, not being able to shut the fuck up. That's yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, shutting up when you don't feel like you express yourself well is agonizing. Yeah, I feel like I nice flub. Merrittk, yeah. So I had this thing when I was younger. I don't know. I kind of did this a lot. And there's a few things here, right? So one thing is people will say you should practice active listening, which means, not just like hearing what people are saying, but actually trying to focus on the content of it and the tone, and then doing things like restating things back to people. Like, and this can get really annoying if you do it inelegantly. But the idea is if someone is like you're not just restating their content, you're sort of like reflecting back their feelings at them, which I guess can probably be tough for people with, autism spectrum. But like if someone says like, oh, I had like, oh my God, my day today was like so rough. And it was just like this, my boss like wouldn't stop like chewing me out. And then the printer jammed and then blah, blah, blah. Like the thing to say that, if you're like trying to like reflect like the tone or emotion of that is like, wow, that sounds like you had a really frustrating day. And that's like kind of a prompt for the person to keep going. I don't know. I think another thing is like, if you just kind of realize that most people just kind of want to talk about themselves. So if you're at like a party or like, talking to people who you don't know super well, most people, just kind of want to talk about themselves, what they do. And obviously asking questions is a good way to get them to do that. And then it becomes a question of like, okay, well, when do I volunteer stuff? And I think sometimes it's just a matter of asking a question and then, waiting for them to bat it back to you and so that you can answer their questions. But something that it took me a long time to realize was just that like, I don't have to say everything I'm thinking, which sounds really obvious, but to me it wasn't for whatever reason. like I would have a thought during a conversation and just think like, oh, I have to vocalize this. And just practicing having thoughts that I didn't vocalize. Like, it wasn't like I was hiding things from people. I was just like, okay, I just had a thought. I'm just like not going to say it. And just kind of trying to build that muscle, right? Of not immediately responding with everything. And also just taking time after someone says something to you and letting it process. I think people are afraid of silence sometimes, or of seeming like they're slow or not witty or engaged if they're being quiet. But there's a difference between being distracted and not noticing when someone's done talking, and focusing on someone who is speaking, waiting for them to finish speaking, and then giving yourself a few seconds to process it and then responding. And there's also nothing wrong with being excitable. Some people are just more excitable than others. And there's not necessarily something wrong with saying, oh, wow, yeah, that's awesome. That's just like this time that I did this. I think it's just, as long as you're not doing it all the time. And I guess if this is what you're having a problem with, then maybe just trying to do what I was talking about, of thinking, like, just kind of making a little game out of it, of like, I'm going to have a thought and not express it. And like, oh, I get a point for doing that. And just kind of getting to this place of a bit more balance between sharing and hearing, or sharing and listening. Because if you've been doing it for so long, it's just going to be an impulse, and you just have to find ways to break that habit, which is a very hard thing to do, breaking any habit, right? So yeah, just trying to practice like having a thought and not blurting it out, just like kind of letting it go. That's what I did. And this is something that I'm still not perfect with, and I don't know that anyone is. I think everyone sometimes feels self-conscious about like, oh, I should have like asked them more about that, or I shouldn't have just volunteered this thought. But it's a process, right? I wish someone would write a song about how hard it is to break a habit. That would be great. They could call it, no, I don't know. You can't do that. It's not allowed. You cannot write a song about breaking a habit. Yeah, it is too bad about Linkin Park. R.I.P. Chester. God. Yeah, if you aren't following me already on Twitch, I would love if you could slam that follow button. That would be dope as hell. And if you have a Prime sub, or you feel like subbing, that would be awesome too. I appreciate it. And let's do another question. Okay. Oh shit, Cabaroso. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Where are we on this? Good a breeze. Hey, thank you. Okay, here's a good one. Oh, I guess I should check the NGL too, because I think the link is still up there. So if people have been sending stuff in, then, you know, it would be good to check that. But there was actually a good one on here that I want to bring up. Okay. Okay. I'm 30-ish, brackets male, comma gay, and have never dated. It all scares me. Meeting people, communication, money, very frugal. Sex, STDs, the L word, work/life balance, heartbreak. I know just do it /app/events, but the safety and comfort of self-isolation has always been too strong to manage. That is, yeah, okay, 30-ish, never dated, and it scares this person. That's real though, right? Especially if you've been, like, there have been periods in my life where I have been single for a while, and you get into a space where it's like, I could date, but also, do I really need to? Do I want to? It's easier just to kind of not. And on the one hand, there is nothing wrong with not dating. There are people who are single their whole lives, and there are people who are celibate their whole lives, and there isn't anything wrong with that if that's what you want. I think the problem is that maybe isn't really what you want, because if it were, you probably wouldn't be asking this question. Fear is a big one, right? Fear of, I mean, yeah, let's just run through the fears. Let's run through these fears. Meeting people, communication, money, sex, STDs, the L word, work-life balance, heartbreak. Okay. Okay, so with fears, this is something I think I talked about last week or maybe the week before, but one thing you can do is like go through the worst case scenario. Like think through, okay, I'm anxious or fearful of something. What is like the worst possible thing that could happen in this situation? Okay, so meeting people. Realistically, what is the worst possible thing that could happen? I mean, murder and stuff like that is, let's kind of put that off the table because statistically pretty unlikely. The worst thing probably that could happen meeting people is rejection, discomfort, shitting your pants and they point and laugh, ridicule. Yeah, those are real. Those are real things. That would and do hurt. I mean, I don't know about the shitting your pants and they point and laugh thing, but nobody pointed and laughed when I did that, so I'm good. But rejection. Rejection hurts, but it's not going to kill you. And it gets less bad the more that it happens. Communication. I mean, same kind of stuff, right? Rejection, discomfort, awkwardness. Wait, there's a great book called what? I just always think of the game called Don't Shit Your Pants, the Flash game. That was like very funny, like skewering of the idea of achievements like 15 years ago or something. I think it's still online. I think you can still play it. It's really good. Rejection, it's fiction. Oh, okay. That's the name of the book. Sometimes an external change can put you in a headspace to take action. Like when I got my first full-time job, I went from 6 years of celibacy to using dating apps like a second job. That's true. Yeah. It may be a case of like this one thing changes and it shifts other stuff in your life. So rejection, the main thing we're dealing with here is rejection. It sucks. You'll live, and the more you do it, like it's kind of an exposure thing, right? You can't really like deal with it until you deal with it. The money thing, okay, yeah. I mean, you don't want to like spend a lot of money on dates. The worst thing that could happen is like you lose all your money. I mean, Wait, which roguelike did they make? Did those people make? Blackjack. I need to know this. They made roguelike. Okay, the creators of hit flash game Don't Shit Your Pants made Rogue Legacy. Good to know. Money. Okay, you don't want to like waste money on dating. I mean, it costs money to go out, but there are ways you can do it cheaper. You don't have to be spending a ton of money, I don't think. Like, there are lots of things where you aren't spending much or anything. Like, dating isn't just going to bars and stuff, right? It can be going to the park. It can be just going to the park. Dating is just going to the park. No, but like there are cheaper and more expensive ways to date. STDs, scary. Worst case scenario here, you get not an untreatable STD, and that would be bad. That would be really bad. That said, there are safer ways to have sex. And there are ways to manage risk. Like, this is another thing too, right? What we're talking about here is risk. And like, okay, you're afraid of having sex because of the risk of STDs. You're afraid of meeting people because of the risk of being rejected. You're afraid of heartbreak or of falling in love with someone because of the risk of heartbreak. And those are all real risks. And anyone who tells you they're not is lying to you. But managing your life so as to minimize the amount of risk that you're dealing with in all aspects is a recipe for a very small and constrained life. The fact is that you are risking life and limb every time you leave the house. You could get hit by a car tomorrow. You could slip and fall in the shower. Nuclear war could be declared. These are all risks that have varying degrees of likelihood. And you can't avoid risk. So what you are trading, and I'm sure if you asked this and you're here, you probably consciously know this. It's just hard to shift that conscious realization to action. But what you are doing by avoiding these things is you are trading the risk of near-term or medium-term pain for the risk of a lifetime of regret. And that's not just true for love. That's true for like a lot of things, right? So you have to ask yourself, like, what is worse? Is it worse to potentially be rejected, to potentially meet someone and fall in love with them and then break up? I mean, in the immediate aftermath of a breakup, it's very easy to be like, oh, I wish I had never met this person at all because what we had wasn't worth the pain that I'm currently feeling. I think a lot of times people eventually move on from that. But in that moment, it can be hard. So yeah, that's like the conscious realization that you maybe already have, that you are making choices that your future self will regret, that you will look back and think, I wish I had tried to date more. So how can you take steps to actually make that happen? Baby steps, acclimatizing yourself. I mean, things like you this question asker mentions apps, and I don't know, maybe he's done this, maybe he hasn't, but like most people who go on dating apps don't actually meet. So even just going on an app and sending a message to someone, that's a step, right? Finding these ways to break down what you're afraid of and make it seem less intimidating, because you're building it up in your head to this thing where it's like all of these bad things are going to happen at once, and you can't take what feels like this huge step. So what you need to do is take smaller steps and find ways to make it seem more manageable. And you have to do that, right? If you think that you are okay not dating, that's fine. And that's great. And if you only feel like you need to date because of the societal pressure to date, then fuck that. Find a way to shrug off that pressure, or to which can be hard, but it's doable. But if you want to and you're not, because you've settled into this place where it feels easier not to, then you have to find the smallest possible action you can take towards that goal and do it right now. Like, if you're watching the stream right now, like, go on Tinder, go on Grindr, go on whatever, and just send a message to someone without the expectation or fear that you're going to have to go meet them. Like, do it immediately. Do not do it later, because you will not do it later. You have not been doing it later. You are going to do it right now. By the way, if there's anything else if you're in chat and there's something you've been putting off and you know that there is a tiny step you could take towards it to do it at this moment, then this is your sign to do it right now. Like, if you have to you do this thing where the first step would be sending an email, like, start writing that email right now. If you have a paper you've been putting off that you need to write for school, start writing the outline. You have my permission to close the stream if you want to. Just like, you just have to immediately take the smallest doable step. Just going back through your chat, since I'm the Andrew Tate of the left, does that mean I want boys to kiss? Is that a thing that he does? I'm going to be real. I don't know much about Andrew Tate. Here's what I know about Andrew Tate. Bald. Sex trafficking. Kickboxing. Pizza boxes. End of list. Yeah, dating apps are hard. I was actually like, someone roasted me on Blue Sky for posting an OkCupid screenshot today. And not like really, it just was like the wildest part of the screenshot is the fact that it's from OkCupid. That site used to be great, and now it is not, because Match owns it, and they're trying to funnel everyone towards either Tinder or Match. And yeah. But, you can bitch about apps or do something about it. It's either, we talked about this last week a bit. It's either, go on apps anyway, even though they suck. Go to a class or group kind of hobby place and meet people that way. Those are like kind of the big options you have in the current era. Okay. Is it possible to compliment a girl you don't really know without seeming like a fucking creep? For my entire life, I've always assumed no, so I don't do it. I'm usually talking fashion. Like the other day I saw somebody with some kick-ass boots, but I said nothing. That poor girl may have no idea how awesome those boots were, a fate worse than death. I mean, she probably knows the boots are cool. But also, I think complimenting someone's shoes is like maybe the least sexual like form of clothing compliment you can give, unless, you know, their toes are out or whatever. And if you're a foot guy, I think people can tell, like people can detect your foot energy, you know? Yeah, if you're not feeling the material, then complimenting fashion, like I thought this was, I was like reading this question, I'm like, okay, so what he's gonna be like, hey, you got a great rack. But clothing is fair game, my friend. Also, like there are ways to do this. I mean, it depends what your intention is, right? Like, I have a lot of tattoos, right? So I will get comments on my tattoos pretty often. And there's a few different kinds of this. One kind is very clearly leading into trying to use it as like a tactic to stop and talk. And it's pretty transparent, right? And usually I'm like, have somewhere to be. I don't think stopping people in the street is ever like really a good idea. I don't know. That's like a pickup artist thing, I think, is standing in their way. That's like a crazy person thing to do to me. But I don't have 3 games. I don't have a Super Seducer series on Steam. So, you know, maybe you want to listen to Richard. What's his name? But there's like so there's the one way of like, I'm saying this thing to you as a way to like wedge open the door and start talking to you, or like, and stop you and whatever. And then, you know, get more intimate. And there's another way that's just like, hey, nice, whatever. Like, you know, I have sometimes walked past people, like guys or, you know, other people who are like, hey, I love your tattoo. And like, they're still walking. So it's like pretty clear that this isn't an ambush tactic. And that's nice. Also, like giving people compliments in this kind of way, I think is a good way to just relax your social self-consciousness. Even if you're just like, you know, in line at a Starbucks, or yeah, like working retail. Yeah, okay, so this person in chat says, yeah, like if they're working retail, they say, hey, cool shirt or something like that. And I think it goes the other way too. Like if you're, you know, a customer and a barista has a cool tattoo, be like, hey, cool tattoo, whatever. People are so afraid of talking to each other. It's nuts. And this has come up before on this stream because it's such a real thing. But like this idea that saying anything to a stranger is like inconveniencing them or is like evidence that you're a creep or something. Because I think there's a real fear that like you're going to end up on social media somehow. Like that someone is going to like make a post about you or take your picture, and like that's real to some extent. And again, there's a difference between trying to trap someone in a conversation and giving someone a one-line compliment or saying one thing to someone, or just like making idle conversation with someone and being friendly. That line can be harder for some people to find than others, but just saying like, yeah, cool shirt, sweet tattoo, sick haircut, it's fine. I think it's fine. Anyone who thinks you're a creep for doing that, it has something else going on. Like anyone, if you're like, oh, hey, cool boots. Anyone who's like, that guy's a total creep. Like, you've given them so little to go on that if they're projecting that into this guy is like a creep, a freak, whatever, like, then that's on them. And that's not on you. Yeah, I think that's like a good point. Like, things that someone made an aesthetic choice to do versus like innate aspects of their physical form. I don't know. Like, the line is going to differ for different people. I think generally commenting on people's bodies is probably not something you should do in public. Like, that's sort of a line for me. I will say there have been times when it has happened when I haven't been like upset, but it was like just kind of funny and weird. Like, one time I was coming out of a bodega in New York by my house, and I was going to the door, and there's a guy coming in. It was like a middle-aged New York guy, and I like got out of the way to like let him come in the store, and then he was just like, "What? Are you kidding? With those eyes? Get out of here!" And like was like, waved me to get out before him. But I was like, that's like an insanely like, that's just a really funny like oh, okay, thank you. Not something people go to a lot. But that's different than like, hey, great ass, get out of here. Like, one thing you shouldn't do is stop your car in the middle of the road and run down the street and tell someone their tattoos are really cool and can we hang out? Hypothetically, that's something that people are unlikely to react well to. Okay, let's shift gears a little. Yeah, you've been doing it wrong this whole time. All right. Okay, this is a different topic. How long have you been writing? What kind of routine do you keep in order to write consistently? Did you ever feel that what you wrote sounded pretentious or like you were trying too hard or some other similar feeling, and how did you get over it? How did you convince yourself to start sharing what you wrote with others? Oh, okay. So I have been writing, kind of depends what you mean. I have been writing fiction on and off since I was in middle school. Was it good? No. I mean, did I share it with anyone? No. We're talking like sub fan fiction level, like basically writing out stuff that like I was imagining in my head as a movie. And or like writing scripts for comics that I just like never got around to drawing. And then, I did a sociology degree in college and in grad school. And in grad school, I got told that I wrote really well pretty often. And I think that's just because I had read a lot more literature than most people in that department. So I think I wrote well for a sociologist, which is different from writing well in general. And I don't know, for a long time I was scared of writing fiction. Like, I've read over 9,000 books. I think saying that makes me 40 to 50 years old. But no. No one even gets that reference anymore, I don't think. That's how fucking old that is. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't write fiction for a long time. Like I did a little bit, like 15 years ago. I kind of started like around a decade and a half ago doing like more fiction, but it always felt forced. Like I felt like I wasn't a good writer, and that's why like interactive fiction stuff felt more attractive, because I was like, oh, I can hide my poor writing behind like choice-based stuff, right? Behind like flashy, like making decisions and like weird, like form. And so I have a bunch of like fragments from that period that I never did anything with because they didn't go anywhere. And then I didn't really start writing fiction more regularly until about 3 or 4 years ago. And what I decided, the way I started doing it, and I don't know that this is the best way to do it, but it's what kind of worked for me, is I was like, I've been wanting to write a novel for a long time, and I just haven't been doing it. So I was like, I'm just going to write like 2 pages a day and not look back while I'm doing it. Like no editing. Because my problem was I would always like write a little bit, then be like, no, that's stupid, and like go back and critique it. You have to be able to shut the critique voice off for a while. So you have to just like, for me, what I had to do was just knock out, several hundred pages. And I knew as I was writing it that like, okay, this doesn't all really connect. This isn't really, coalescing into what I wanted to. But what mattered was that I got the words in, and I built up this text. And then I started going back and was like, okay, and I went back to the beginning and I was like, some of this is actually okay. I haven't published that yet because I think it still needs a lot of work, but it's just, it's getting your steps in, right? It's just like doing your reps. And all that said, I still feel self-conscious about writing, and I still sometimes feel like I'm writing pretentious. And I have this thing where whenever I read a really good novel, I want to write like that person. Like, I'm reading a book right now called Gloss by Kira Wilder, which is sort of like a modern retelling of the Hesperides, which is like this Greek myth about naiads, I think. And it's written in this really so it's like 3 main characters, and each of them are writing in the first person. And it's about like these 3 girls who are in this weird treatment program for eating disorders. And then the guy who runs it gets arrested, or there's a trial or something, and it's sort of non-linear. But reading that, I'm like, oh man, wow, I want to write like this. And, I read my colleague Brockway's book, his new book, a couple of weeks ago, which you should pre-order. It's really good if you like horror, or if you like Brockway's writing in general. But I think that is like a problem that I have, where I'm always like, I want to write like that. And I haven't been writing as many short stories lately, just because I kind of felt like I was slipping into this space of just doing creepypasta without like narrative arc. And so, I mean, I co-wrote the game Fledgling Manor that came out last year, and we're working on a new game now. But I don't know. I think there's always going to be the voice that says that you're, not good enough, or that you're pretentious. And the way that I convinced myself to start sharing stuff, I think that was with like the short fiction that felt less personal, because the novel thing that I wrote was like very personal, and it's still, again, not in any shape where I can do anything with it. But with the short fiction, it was like a little more playful and creepy and silly, and that felt like, again, like I just got into a place of like, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I think actually this was in the wake of a breakup. And so someone mentioned earlier about how like sometimes external events can shake you out of a routine, whether that's like getting a job or a breakup. And I think just in the wake of that breakup, I was like, who fucking cares? Like, what's the worst thing? The worst thing that could happen, as I saw it, had already happened to me. So it was like, so what? If I post a short story and like someone laughs at me on Twitter, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I am at my nadir. I can't be brought any lower. And that's maybe a dangerous way to think, but yeah. I think just put stuff out there, even just like putting stuff on a blog and not telling people that it's there, because then you know it's out there, and then you could always like share a link with someone you trust if you want to do that. Just get your reps in. Just if not daily, then every other day, but just get those reps in, baby. That's what it is. That's what it's all about, right? Basically no matter what, it's just start doing it a little bit. You're not gonna write a novel. Like sitting down to think I'm gonna write a novel is a great way to not do that. Sitting down and like saying I'm gonna write 2 pages today, and I'm gonna do that again tomorrow, and I'm gonna do that again for the next 100 days or whatever. Then you've got raw material, and then you can work with it. The book Bird by Bird is really good for this kind of thing, and it's by Anne Lamott, and I just recommended it to my my kickboxing BJJ coach, actually, because he is he's like in his 50s and isn't can't really compete anymore, and now he's like starting to write and wants to write like his memoirs and other stuff. And I was like, yeah, you should read Bird by Bird. And he picked it up, and it's been helpful to him. So, yeah, check that out. It's, I think it's pretty solid. Some folks don't realize how much trash Stephen King wrote before he ever became famous, and then how much trash he continued to write. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the only way you're going to write anything good is by writing bad stuff first. Or concurrently. You just got to get the pump going, right? And there's exercises and stuff you can find, but I don't know. For me, it was just get stuff out, or just like even just keeping a journal. That can be a good way of just getting your words into, if that's something you are into doing. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Okay, I've been losing my will to do new things, be proactive, do anything outside of just getting by. How do I get my ambition and spark back? Well, there's a few things, right? One possibility is that you are dealing with some kind of, probably not cocaine, probably not doing cocaine here. One possibility is that you are dealing with some kind of biochemical, mental, or physiological health issue. And if this is like a pretty sudden change, then if you can, I would say probably getting some basic tests done at a doctor is a good idea. And by that I mean, like, I had some tests done like 5 or 6 months ago, and it turned out I was iron deficient, and which is really common. And I wasn't anemic, but which is like severe iron deficiency, but it, I wasn't getting enough iron. So I started taking supplements, and iron supplements, not, Rogan. And they helped. I think they helped. They definitely, I feel like I have more energy. I'm not as tired. Iron deficiency is really, really common. It's the second most common nutritional deficiency, I think, behind vitamin D. So, yeah, just like rule that out. That's a good thing to, because you're like probably in your head of like, oh, I'm worthless. I'm not good. I'm like, why don't I have any motivation? It could just be that you aren't getting enough iron or vitamin D or something. And if that's the case, then that's like a really easy fix. Assuming that that is not the case. Yeah. So there's this thing of this loop, right? Of action and motivation. And or there's these two concepts, action and motivation. And we tend to usually assume that action comes after motivation. Like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything today, or I don't feel like working on this thing today. I need to wait until I do feel like working on it. But in reality, it's usually the reverse. It's you do something and then you feel motivated that you've done it, and that is a springboard for doing other things. So if you find that you're feeling like, oh, I need motivation, I'm just like not motivated to do anything. Again, it could be a physiological issue. If it's not an iron or vitamin deficiency, then it, if you're also just feeling like low energy and like emotionally drained, then there could be some kind of mental health thing going on. And there is nothing wrong with, going to therapy or getting meds or doing ketamine. I mean, not doing ketamine, but, having ketamine treatments or whatever. Because it's pretty vague. But motivational stuff is a pretty big part of depression. Like, people usually just think it's like, I'm sad, but a lot of it is just like, I feel like leaden and incapable of taking action. And so that's something else to think about. But assuming it's not, a nutritional deficiency, assuming it's not depression, like clinical depression, and you're just not feeling it, I think kind of like what I was saying with the writing stuff, just finding something small that you can do, that you can call a dub, because it's about racking up dubs, right? And a dub can be sweeping your house, it can be like getting groceries. And because on the one hand, you can be like, oh, I should be able to do those things anyway. Like, oh, great, I did the baseline. Does that help you though to do that? To think like, oh, I'm just doing the baseline. Like, I'm a piece of shit. Like, of course I should be able to do this. Like that, you're making a choice to talk about yourself in that way. And the question is, does it help you? If it helps motivate you to do other stuff, then great. But in my experience, negative reinforcement of that kind, negative self-talk, isn't motivating. It doesn't actually get you to kick your ass to go do something. It, makes you feel shitty and is not useful. So seeing it this other way of like putting wins on the board, of like, okay, you want to do new things, be proactive. Like, okay, you probably have like taken the same like paths to places however long you've been living in your current house. Like, walk a different way somewhere. Like, take a roundabout way to the store. You have done a new thing. Try a different kind of monster. I don't know. That is a new thing, right? And what can happen is you will just start unfolding more and more new things. And or I don't know, this is something that I do a lot, but instead of watching the same YouTube video or show that you've seen a million times, watch a movie that you haven't seen. That's something, right? Go to a park you haven't been to before. If you're someone who plays the same games all the time, play a different game. These are all just pretty minor things that aren't going to take a ton of energy, but are going to make it seem more possible to do bigger things. Also, Blackjack, I see that you said you deleted all your live service games. I respect that. I think that is a very difficult thing to do. I still have dreams about reinstalling Destiny and just being like, oh, maybe just drop in, just see what it's like these days. And I wake up and I'm like, oh my God. Can you imagine? I think it's normal to have thoughts like that. And the true test is whether you act on them or not. But wow, it's dark to imagine the kinds of thoughts that can gestate in the human mind. Yeah, do new minor things. You're ambitious, right? You want to be ambitious. You want to do these like huge, amazing things. Start by doing small, interesting things. Order something new at a restaurant. Like, again, real baseline, just trying different things, opening up possibility paths, figuring things out about yourself. And yeah, start small, go big. Just build on stuff, right? If a big scary thing excites you, do that too. Yeah. I think, yeah, it's this kind of like black and white thinking, right? Of like, oh, if I'm not doing all these things, then I'm failing. If I'm not like, succeeding in this way or being ambitious in this way, then I'm failing. You can build up to that though. And most people don't go from 0 to 60. Basically nobody does. And if they seem to, usually it's because they've been able to conceal 1 to 59. And in private, they're doing that stuff. Buy a random pallet of Amazon returns. Yeah, go to a crazy bins store. Those stores seem really dark to me. Like, it seems like I read a piece by Ernie at TDM, the mailing list, about them, and I'd never heard of them before, and they seem really dark. It's very like dystopian coded to me. You love buying dry Pokemon cereal from Amazon return stores. I don't even know what to make of that. Not that it's bad. I'm so befuddled by this concept. All right, let me check NGL real quick. I'm really nervous to talk to my girlfriend because her friends are always around her and I don't know what to do. I mean, sack up, man. I don't know. This is kind of like hard to answer without more context. Is she really your girlfriend? If you're nervous to talk to her when her friends are around? I don't know, man. Try to spend time with her alone. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there. I feel like, yeah, I can't really help with that one. Does anyone else does anyone else like know what that means? Am I missing something here? Am I just really tired? I got kicked pretty hard today. So I'm like not operating at 100%. You missed the question. Don't worry about it. Okay. Let's do one or two more. I'm going to wrap things up a little early tonight just because I'm really tired. Partly regarding kicks. Okay. Am I better off? Am I better off pushing for a clear and immediate answer E.g., hey, I like you and would love to date romantically if you feel the same. Or playing the long game to see where this all leads with time. It's a judgment call, right? So many variables for this one. I don't know. On the one hand, I feel like I say this a lot. On the one hand, on the other hand, there is something to be said for directness, because you're getting an answer one way or the other. And one reason I think people do not go for the direct route a lot of the time is due to fear. Because if the answer is no, then that's rejection and that's painful. And also, potentially, if this is a friend, potentially jeopardizes the friendship. Potentially. I mean, I think if you're decent friends, you can get through it. But that, I think, is one reason people don't do that. There's another reason where it's just kind of fun to let things go. Like, I'm not going to say it isn't like that, you know. Part of flirting is subtlety, right? Is not coming out and kind of just saying like, I would love to date you romantically in a romantic context. And obviously you wouldn't put it like that, but you know what I mean? There's something to the kind of flirty banter. There's something to letting things percolate. But the way that ends, the way that the percolation leads to something is someone making a move. And it is not naturally going to happen with time. Like it may feel more natural because you know each other better or something, but like someone still ultimately does make that shift. And the other person reciprocates or rejects it. So it's kind of like, okay, you're sort of just saying like, it's a question of timing. I think it's like, is now a good time to say like, do you want to go out with me? And that is just so dependent on context. It's just like, where is the relationship at? Like, are you friends, acquaintances? So much depends, right? And I feel like that's kind of a cop-out to say that, but it's true. And I think thinking about it in terms of the timing thing, rather than thinking about it as, oh, do I force this or let it grow naturally? Because it's already growing naturally and it's not going to bloom into relationship happening without you or this other person saying, I would like to date, or I would like to sleep with you, or whatever. So yeah, if it's fun to, I know, playing the long, like you're not playing a long game, right? You're seeing where, yeah, you're sort of seeing where things go. And if that's fun, then I say keep doing that for a while. And knowing that you are just sort of like postponing this question, and that's not bad. It may be that there's a better time in the future. And also, if you spend more time, you may realize that you actually don't want to ask this person out. That's a possibility. So yeah, I mean, there's not necessarily a rush, but there's also like the possibility that someone else comes along in the meantime and does ask a clear question. That's a classic, I think, for like the shy kind of guy of like, sort of waits for something to develop and someone else comes along and asks the object of desire out and she agrees and you're like, oh my God. And like, well, you should have said something. Like, being on the receiving end of the long game when you think you're just friends also sucks. Yeah, like there's a difference between like, I have feelings for this person and, let's see where it goes, and being able to be mature about those feelings, and thinking about it like you're investing into a future romantic relationship, because that doesn't feel great if it doesn't work out. Even if it does, it's kind of a weird way to think about things. Yeah. Putting coins in for a pity pool. Yeah. Love is not a gacha game. Okay, how do I learn to be vulnerable enough to love and be loved? If you find out, please tell me. That's like the goal, right? That's the sort of end game. That's yeah, that's the end game, right? That's like you know, that's the raid content. Like and it's optional, you know. It's like you can just grind your dailies. You don't have to do it. I mean, it's in the game, but you don't have to engage with it. You know, you can just do PvP. You can just grind your dailies. I mean, I'll say one thing that I've been thinking about, because this is, tomes have been written on this. This is, this is the goal for like a lot of people in life. So I will say one thing that I've been thinking about a little bit. And I think this idea of like the way that the concept of cringe has just become so normalized. I mean, and it is just basically, it's just the 2010s, 2020s version of gay, like how we would say gay in the 90s and 2000s. It just means like embarrassing or awkward or but the thing about it is that like being embarrassed for someone, I think is only really possible if you see something in them that you fear within yourself. Like if someone is making a fool of themselves and you're secure in yourself, you might feel bad for them, but you're not going to feel that like hot shame, like that shame by proxy of like that then warps itself into, I'm so glad that that's that person and not me, and I'm going to reaffirm that that is not me by like, you know, mocking this person. Which isn't to say that there aren't awkward or irritating people in the world. Absolutely there are. I would be the first person to say that. But when you orient yourself towards this ironic posture that says that like the worst thing you can be is fully engaged with the world, then you have basically put up a wall between yourself and fully engaging with the world, right? Which makes it very difficult to be vulnerable enough, basically impossible to be vulnerable enough to love and to be loved. And kind of a lot of the modern environment of the internet encourages people to be like this. And it's not great. And I don't know, I feel like every few years people are like, oh, irony, we need more sincerity, not irony. And like, this is not a new debate, but the panopticon of social media, where it's like when someone does something foolish, and I don't mean evil or like dangerous, I just mean goofy, where like in the past maybe a dozen people would see that, maybe a couple hundred if they were really unlucky, and now it's just like everyone, and people have like pet, weirdos who they're like, oh, this person is like just posting really embarrassing TikToks, like, the Gerblin is posting these TikToks. Like, is it possible to laugh at stuff like that without dehumanizing yourself? Maybe. It's not easy. And you have to be sincere, I think, if you want to be vulnerable. And that is really frightening, I think, for a lot of people. Alan Watts had this saying where he said that he's not interested in being serious, but he is sincere. So you can still be, I think you can still be playful, and you can still be amusing and interesting and all of these things. And I'm not saying that irony in general is bad. I'm not saying that sarcasm is bad. I'm not saying any of these things. It's just, I've realized that I don't think it's good for a lot of people, all of these things combining into this way of like, I need to have someone else to laugh at. To some extent, that's just an in-group thing of humans always want to feel like we're in the in-group, and you do that by creating an out-group. And that's how things have worked for basically as long as humans have had groups and language. But yeah, I don't know. And I see this in myself too, like there have been times when I've like followed someone online and been not followed like on Twitter, but just like kept up with what they're doing and been like, why am I doing this? Like, oh, it's just because it makes me feel a little better about myself. Like, well, that's kind of pathetic. I'm going to stop. But just being like, wow, yeah, this person fucked up again. Like, what a dipshit. Like, yeah, James Rolfe is a great example of this. People are like, oh, this fucking asshole. And whatever. I like James. I think he's, whenever I've spoken with him, he's been really generous with his time. And yeah, he has made some decisions that I don't agree with. And, there's, yeah. I wish he had someone proofread his book. But, among other things. But yeah, the amount of vitriol that people have for him is kind of crazy when he's just like, he's basically harmless in terms of like, I don't know, he doesn't engage with like the culture wars. He's pretty reclusive for a successful YouTuber. He just has a family. He just travels to movie shooting locations that he likes. He plays in his band that like everyone hates. Not everyone, all those people hate, but he's having fun with it. So like, he's winning. Like, that's the thing, is like, he's winning. And people who are spending their time being like, oh, Beam's fucked up again. Bimmy fucked up again. Like, that, you're spending your one wild and precious life hating a guy who makes a living pretending to shit on Sega Genesis cartridges. So just kind of step back and think about that for a minute, I guess. Bombs away, bitch. B-52 bomber. Yeah. So yeah, just, the internet is not kind to vulnerability, and that's not going to change tomorrow. This may be a reason to spend less time on the internet and to spend more time in person with people who are human beings and aren't as concerned that some random thing they say will get grabbed onto by thousands of strangers and be circulated around for amusement. Yeah, also, if you're someone who makes videos where you film strangers, probably you should be in jail. I don't know why I thought of that, but like that's probably something that should be illegal. Like you shouldn't. I know I was saying earlier, like you shouldn't be afraid to talk to people, but like filming people to put them on the internet for any reason, if they're not like excited about it, no, you should get in the hole. Get in the hole. We're throwing you in the hole. It's too late. It's over for you. You're going in the hole now. You live in the hole. Oh, you're talking to people about body count? You're in the hole. Oubliette. Get in there. We're going to forget about you. Well, I think I'm going to call it there. Yeah, again, if you don't follow already, and you could slam that follow button. And if you do want to sub, I would appreciate that. I don't like to push that very often. It feels pushy. I don't want to be pushy, you know? If you don't follow, get in the hole. You live in the hole now. This is your life. It's whole for you. If you sub, you're throwing you a ladder and climb out of the hole. It's that big Dark Souls 2 hole. You need a ladder. The cat ring won't do it because past a certain point, you just die. I thought it would do it. I thought it would stop. Yeah, I thought it would, but it doesn't do it. That's not how it works. So, yeah, I think we had some good ones. I think we had some good ones tonight. Thanks to Rick Spaza for the raid earlier. Thank you to everyone who subbed. Thank you if you sent in questions. I might do another one next week. Who knows? Maybe I'll just replay Dark Souls while I'm doing this. I don't know. Just not have my attention focused on either thing. But I was just thinking about Dark Souls today and like, it's been a while since I played Dark Souls. Fuck. I gotta play Dark Souls again. Return to 2. Ooh, 2 could be good. But 1 I could play while I'm doing this because I played it so much. 2 I'd have to focus a little more. But yeah, we'll see. All right, thanks y'all. Have a good night. I'll see you later.